and welcome to Tab That MTG, the show where we tell you everything we know about Magic the Gathering that's probably wrong, but fun to talk about. I'm Leslie.
And I'm Shauna.
Today we are bringing you another quick and dirty companion guide based on, well, you'll find out. But basically we're going to break it down. We're going to tell you some quick tips on how to build a deck around it, and then talk to you about some of the key cards. So which one are we talking about today? And what the heck is this companion thing?
First of all, Companion is a new mechanic that got introduced with Ikoria. And basically it's a special card that gets to sit kind of to the side, sort of like a commander does in Commander, and you get to play that card whenever you can. But it's different than Commander in that when it dies, it dies. It just goes to the graveyard and you can't play it again. But it also has a stipulation. Every one of them has a stipulation of what your starting deck has to contain. So in today we're doing Jegantha the Wellspring, which is an elemental elk for 4 and a hybrid red-green. It's a 5/5, and no card in your starting deck has more than one of the same mana symbol in its mana cost. So it seems kind of complicated, actually.
Yeah. No double mana.
No double mana. So you're going to see that eliminates quite a few cards. And you can tap this creature and add one of each color to your mana pool, and it can't be spent to pay generic mana costs. So you're going to be doing some crazy stuff with all those colors. And there happens to be a very special card in Standard right now that costs one of each of those colors that you don't find played very often. And it's Mr. Niv Mizzet. So, yes, so we're going to talk about that card here coming up. Yeah. So what's some generalization about this crazy deck?
I can talk generalizations.
Sure.
So basically this deck, because Jegantha she costs 5, and then the first turn, of course, she has summoning sickness, so that's important to remember.
Right.
If you do decide to use her as a companion, the first turn you play her, you cannot tap her for that mana. So just remember that. But basically, you are going to be wanting to put cards in your deck that have multiple colors in them. There is no point in tapping her for mana just to get one pip or use one of those pips, because you can't use the mana for generic mana cost. You can only use it for colors. Now, those colors will sit in your mana pool. The other thing to remember, I guess, is that your mana will empty out between phases. So if you're using them in your first main phase, you decide to tap her for mana and then play some stuff, you can use it to play multiple spells. But once you move to combat, that mana empties out. You cannot use it during combat. You cannot use it during your next main phase. So that's a little bit kind of restrictive. So it's important to, I guess, put stuff in your deck, in my opinion, that takes advantage of multiple. There's no sense in tapping her for 2 mana or 3 mana. You want to tap her or 3 mana, I guess, would be worth it. You want to tap her for at least 3.
Yeah, I think so.
If not more. Because she's a 5/5. So if you're just tapping her for mana, 2 doesn't make it worth it. She is a 5/5 though, so you get her out there.
Yeah.
She definitely gives you the mana you need, which is great. But I guess that brings up the questions, which I'll throw over to you. What is the point of having that in, if there's, like you talked about, Niv Mizzet?
Yeah, so if you think about it, you've got 5 mana that you used to play this card, plus you've got the 5 mana from this card. So that's 10 mana that you get to use once you've got this out. So
on turn 6.
On turn 6. So that's gives you quite a bit of options. So the reason we talk about Niv Mizzet is because when you play Niv Mizzet, it's a 6/6 flyer that costs 1 of each color. But when it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each color pair, choose a card that is exactly those colors from among them. Put the chosen cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. So you're going to be getting, hopefully, a ton of cards, because your whole deck is cards of multiple single colors, right? So multiple color pairs. So hopefully you're going to get a bunch of stuff that you can then play with the extra mana that you have. So it's really about doing some big things that are just over the top kind of fun stuff.
So Niv-Mids is a key card in this deck, and Fires of Invention is a key card in this deck. So I guess my question to you, that when you analyze this deck, you're going, okay, turn 4 I put out Fires of Invention. Turn 5 I can put out Niv-Mizzet without Jegantha, plus possibly another card for free. So what is the point of putting Jegantha in there? Like, Fires does it, Fires already, like, I guess, what's the point? This is the conversation we were like rolling around in our head going, why would you do that? Fires is good enough. I guess I don't know, like, so tell me, Shauna, what did we come up with? Why would you play Jegantha as your companion?
Fires gets removed pretty quickly for sure, and sometimes you don't get it. So it's also giving you, because Jegantha is sitting there, you always get it, because it's always there. Whereas you might not see your Fires of Invention, believe me, you might not see it. And then you're kind of screwed. But if you have Jegantha available to you, you can use it, and then you can access a lot more cards with it because it's that much more mana. And Fires limits you to only be able to play 2 cards on your turn, and you can't play anything on their turn. So it's very limiting once you have it out. So Jegantha doesn't have those limits, which is nice.
Yeah. So that's good. I guess the other thing we talked about, which I think is really important to remember in this deck, is that, which kind of was a game changer when we were thinking about it, right? Is Jegantha limits your starting deck to things with only 1 mana cost, but it doesn't limit your sideboard. So, what can you do to take advantage of your sideboard when you have a ton of different mana to choose from?
Well, there is a fun little card called Fae of Wishes / what is it? Granted. Granted is its sorcery side, which is what you normally play this for. So that gives you the ability to go look in your sideboard and grab cards from your sideboard that you can need in that given moment. So plus you can put Fae of Wishes back in your hand, but so do it all over again. So you put in your sideboard these crazy cards, like these ultimatums that just came out with Ikoria, that do have multiple colors in their mana cost. So for example, Inspired Ultimatum has 2 blues, 3 red, and 2 white. But because it's in your sideboard, you can get those things. So now you've got the Fires to help you pay, or sorry, the Jegantha to help you pay, plus you've got all that mana out. So now those huge mana cost ultimatums suddenly aren't a big deal, and they can do crazy things to the board.
What do the ultimatums do? Let's quickly run them
Sure.
through them.
The Inspired Ultimatum that I was just talking about, you play that and target player gains 5 life. Inspired Ultimatum deals 5 damage to any target, and then you draw 5 cards. So that whole, you have options.
Yeah.
So fun.
Options are good. What else?
And then the Genesis Ultimatum is 2 green and 2 blue and 2 red. That one you get to look at the top 5 cards of your library, put any number of permanent cards from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest into your hand, and
Crazy.
exile it. So you've got all sorts of stuff happening there.
Yeah. And then Emergent Ultimatum. Again, 3 different colors, but 3 of those you can take care of with Jegantha, and then search your library for up to 3 monocolored cards of different names and exile them. An opponent chooses one of those cards, shovels that card into your library, and you may cast the other cards without paying their mana cost. Exile Emergent Ultimatum. So if you're going to use that as in your sideboard, then definitely you want to make sure that you have the monocolored cards in your deck to search for. But
And one of my favorites that's really fun when it goes off is the Eerie Ultimatum. That's 2 white, 3 black, and 2 green. And it's return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. So yeah, if the opponent has wiped your board, well, you're going to go get it all back. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So it's really fun.
So I guess the key thing with this deck is it's not necessarily a tier deck. It will probably win a decent amount of time, but it's, I think, a little bit fun because you can go into your sideboard and grab some stuff. There's a lot of trickiness happening. So it's not just your typical aggressive fires of invention. And if you play it, what we've seen is ultimately when you play Niv Mizzet, people quit. So you don't actually win the game because you win the game. It's because nobody likes to see Niv Mizzet.
No.
So when Niv Mizzet comes
6-6
out,
flyers hard to deal with.
bye. So if you want something that people will just quit, then this is a fun one to play.
It has lots of ways to get mana and stuff and just ramp it up. So it just seems to happen hopefully fast for you if you don't get mana screwed. But it's just a fun kind of crazy deck to play. Just to have to think and have to plan, and it's a thinking deck for sure. It's not a beginner deck, I don't think.
No.
But it's
No. And be kind. If you see someone playing this and they're taking a while to think, it's because they're trying to figure out what the best thing is to do, and they're maybe playing it for the first time. So let's be kind. Let's be patient with people and not be salty. We're reminding ourselves, not necessarily just you.
Shauna, when you watch this video, be kind.
Be kind. So that's it really for this time. We hope that gives you a quick and dirty if you want to use Jegantha as your companion of how you might do that. There's really only one way to play this Jegantha, in our opinion, but we want to hear how you're playing Jegantha, so please let us know. You can visit us on YouTube where we have podcasts. You can listen to us anywhere that you get your podcasts. Feel free to connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. We're on all of the social media. That's it for this time, and until next time, tap those magic cards and have fun doing it. Bye, guys.